welcome to the podcast.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm stoked about it. I'm also shifting gears because we just watched a fight. We
Yes,
had to.
We did. We had to. It was local Kansas City guys, so we had to.
So, what fight did we just watch? Who were we watching?
We watched Jordan Levitt versus Trey Ogden. So Trey Ogden is a local Kansas City fighter and just got into the UFC, so that was his debut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lost by split decision.
Yeah, it sucks.
Literally just now.
Just now. Like, all the emotions are probably going through his head. That sucks. It's a rough life.
And he had a really solid, like, close guard guillotine first round. Flipped it into a mount guillotine.
A mount guillotine, and I thought he was going to choke him out.
I thought so, too.
He, like, that dude, but he just was taking the pain, I guess. So that sucks.
That's
rough. And I think he had an adrenaline dump and was just like, all right, I'm fatigued, and because he slowed down a lot in the second and third round. So,
which you can't blame him for hanging on to that because it was there,
100%. Like, a minute and 30 seconds, though, is a long time when you got 10 more minutes to go of a round, rounds. So, but that's the fight game. You just make decisions and see what happens, and hopefully it works out.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure he'll be back because that was some impressive fighting.
For sure.
So we're in Kansas City, in a different part of Kansas City today.
Yes.
What part of Kansas City is this?
So we're technically in Liberty,
okay.
Missouri.
Okay.
So it's like a suburb of Kansas City, I guess.
That sounds right.
I don't know why you need air quotes for that, but I guess it's a suburb of Kansas City.
It's better without the air quotes.
It's better.
I liked it with the air quotes too, but
yeah, it's solid. Both are solid.
So, and we're at your gym that you train. Folks
so we're at A2 Fitness, which
Shout
is
out.
on Liberty. So they are basically, I rent space here. I'm one of the trainers here, and I run my own company, Stay Ready Fitness, or Stay Ready Performance and Recovery. And so I just basically rent out and like train clients here and do stretching therapy out of here. And so, yeah, it's really cool. There's like 6 trainers here total, so we're a pretty busy gym. So it's pretty dope.
It's a nice space.
Yeah.
And a good gig, and it complements what you do very well.
Yeah.
But tell us a little about that.
So I mean, well, I'm a pro MMA fighter now. Made that move this year. Should have had like a fight by now for the pro career. But it's been a couple months of trying to find fights, shows kind of canceling, venue issues.
Is that all still COVID fallout stuff? Or?
Kind of, but it's more like money issues where like the venues are charging too much because inflation and all those things. So it just gets really funky. But finally got one nailed down for May 21st. It was a fight I was supposed to have back in February. And so I'm fighting a guy who also is going pro. It's his pro debut also, named Nick Fulkin. So it's exciting. But yeah, just getting ready for that. And I mean, just kind of embracing the pro MMA like thought that I am spent 6 years trying to get to pro, and now here we are.
What's that process? Because isn't it an actual process where you have to have a certain number of fights or something? Or
no, so in Missouri at least there's not a process where like there are guys who have one fight and they were like a D1 wrestler from Mizzou or KU or a Boomer Sooner, whatever, local Midwest college, and they just do one fight and then they're like, all right, I'm going pro. And they just go pro because they've been doing it at such a high level for so long. So there's really not like a system or preference or some kind of idea where you have to wait so long. It's usually good to get a couple fights under your belt just because you have to get used to, the weight cuts, the rehydration, the actual feel of getting in a cage for the first time, the adrenaline dumps, those kind of things. And so, I mean, I went for 15 fights. Yeah, 15 fights as an amateur, but I also like didn't do any sports before ever doing MMA. Like I did basketball in like middle school and high school, but I sucked at that. And I sucked at baseball, and I never played football. So I was like, well, guess we're going to try this whole punch people in the face thing.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. I'll get back to origin too, but I also want to understand the process. Like, so it matters when you go pro in that your pro record is really the important record, right?
So
because your amateur record, you can take
goes
those
away.
L's. And,
it goes back to 0-0. So as soon as you go pro, like you're back at goose eggs. You have no real, like, you're not good and you're not bad. You're just a pro. And so, and everybody wants to take your O. Like they want to take that sweet loss and they want to give it to you. So yeah, like as soon as you go pro, like your whole amateur record goes away. I mean, it's still there. Like people can look it up, but it does not matter at all.
Right.
So that's why like dudes who take their amateur record super seriously, It's kind of weird. I mean, I did for a little while, but then you get to a point like after my 5th or 6th fight, I was just like, so I've lost like 2 and like, but those don't really matter because when I go pro, they go away. And they're like, yeah, pretty much. And I was like, oh, so
Yeah.
like this is like the like practice time.
Yeah, it's training grounds.
Yeah,
Which makes sense. When are you really ready for this to sort of count? And it's your
Yeah,
call.
like when are you ready for this record to stay with you like your credit score? Like pretty
Oh,
much.
shit, yeah.
Like that's how it is. It's like, all right, like you're an adult now. Like, are you ready to like this to really count? And you're like, let's go one more fight. Like, let's do one more. And then you end up being like the 42-year-old who has like 75 amateur fights, which I know a few. I mean, I don't know them personally, but I know them where I'm like, dude, how do you have 32 wins, 20 losses, and like 5 no contests as an amateur? Like you had more fights than some pros I know. Like,
yeah, it's a timing thing, isn't it? To know when to flip the switch and make it happen.
Or they don't want to get off the steroids because they don't test at amateur.
Oh, I see.
So, I mean, they could totally just be juicing a lot.
Okay.
Which I don't know anybody who does that, but it's totally a possibility.
Well, that's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate.
It's really unfortunate. It's always a conversation I've heard that like steroid use within martial arts. It's like it's different than steroid use in baseball, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's like you're trying to hurt somebody. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's 100%.
Make yourself far more effective at hurting somebody than just sort of learning better techniques at hurting somebody. I mean, it's a little different.
Like, it's not like you're swinging a baseball bat at a ball and like it's gonna go further. Like, hey, I'm gonna punch you in the face and like I'm gonna break more bones
5 times harder than I should be able to. Yeah.
So the steroid part's a little like,
yeah,
maybe we should just test across all fields. But yeah, the process is just it's kind of just fly by the seat of your pants. Really, at the base of it, you're just like, all right, at some point, I'm just going to click this button and we're going to go for it and try to make some money.
Damn.
So, and hopefully you make good money.
Yeah.
And it's usually you make really bad money.
Right.
But.
Well, so you didn't do any fighting before in high school or anything like that?
I just got beat up
wrestling.
a lot. That's about it.
Did you?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I was bullied to a degree. Like, my friends were bullies. They were my friends, but they definitely gave me a lot of crap. And more just that stigma of being the really like big kid kind of got me to that. But yeah, I never fought before. Funny enough, the dude who got me into martial arts at all was my youth pastor at the church I was going to. And his guy nights would be like, hey, he was taking jiu-jitsu and he's a purple belt. And he's like, I'm going to learn how to teach people by teaching you guys. And so we'd be like my best friend at the time, Gage, which is still like my best friend. He was a wrestler. And so he would just smash me the whole time and screw me up and fuck me up and all that stuff. And I was just like, all right, dude, like, how am I going to do this? He's like, oh, we're going to teach you how to do like triangle chokes. I had 2 moves, triangle choke, guillotine. That's all we got.
Yeah.
No wrestling. I was like, all right, if we don't start on our knees, I don't know what to do. Like, it was literally every meme about jiu-jitsu out there. And so we just went there like 3 times a week, and I got beat up like 4 times a week. And that wasn't the bully part. That was kind of like I chose to do that part.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I was like at like 16, and I did that for like, I don't know, a year or 2. But it was like I learned 2 moves and just tried to get really good at those 2 moves.
And then you pursued learning actual jiu-jitsu after that?
I actually took a step back. Because I went to college. We kind of talked about this earlier, but I went to college for music, funny enough. And so I went to a local college for music business and music tech, and was 100% set on just being like the front of house engineer for bands, touring the country, like maybe doing some like recording artist stuff. And I just ended up doing that for a couple years. Like, I toured the country a couple times over with a couple different bands and some buddies. And that was really fun. But that also like didn't really pay the bills. Like, it paid good, but not like paid what I wanted it to. And then I just started realizing I was missing out on like birthdays with my family and like my niece's birthdays and my nephew's birthday. And I just felt super disconnected from life. And I was like, I need to figure out like what to do now. And I was also super unhealthy at the time. So that was also a factor in it. And then I came back. And then my buddy, I started working at Hy-Vee overnight, just trying to have a job. And my buddy, Jake Zek, he's a purple belt at 10th Planet, Kansas City. He kept bugging me every night, man, come train. And he was a fighter at the time. Same weight class I fight now, 185. And he's like, come train. I was like, nah, man, my girlfriend's on me. I had a girlfriend at the time. That's weird because I haven't had a girlfriend forever.
Not with your schedule now.
Not my schedule now. It's very fleeting.
Yeah.
Relationships, the most I have is with like my best friend who's my roommate, and then like my coach and my teammates. Those are the long lasting relationships.
Only people you have time for.
Facts. And one night I came in, he's like, "Why do you look down, man?" And I was like, "Oh, me and my girlfriend broke up." And without a beat, this dude, without a beat, didn't even ask how it was, didn't ask like how my emotional state was. Like he goes, "Oh, so you can come to training tomorrow night."
Right.
Like didn't say anything else, didn't like think that he should ask about like my emotional status. He was just like, "Oh, so you can come like let me choke you out tomorrow." And I was like, I just looked at him, I was like, "Yeah, I guess so." And then here we are.
Yeah. It's a little religious, isn't it? The whole jiu-jitsu thing. A little one-track minded
It's
to try to get your friends to do it.
It's definitely like the only thing I think about most of the time. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, training my clients here and then jiu-jitsu and MMA, especially like getting close to a fight because my fight's like 5 weeks out.
Yeah. It's so soon.
And so like, which it seems crazy because I've literally been trying to get a fight since last August when I fought.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm used to fighting like 3 or 4 times in like a 6 to 8 month period. So not fighting for 9 months is like the weirdest thing. And I was just like, okay, like we'll figure it out. And then now all of a sudden it's like 5 weeks out. And I'm like, oh man, like I actually got a weight cut this time.
Yeah.
Right? Like I got to do these things. And so as it gets closer, all I think about is fighting and like the opponent. And so it just becomes, I become even more one track mind where I'm like, I'm not going to think about anything else or anybody else.
Yeah. Which is good. I mean, I think that's what it takes. You're talking being a pro athlete, like
Yeah.
this is your life now.
Yeah, it is
You know?
like it's 100% my life. Like
Especially when it's on, when it's coming up, you know?
when it's on, you're definitely on. Like there is no, you're like, oh, if I got an injury, I guess we'll just use some duct tape and keep that together for now till it heals up in the next couple weeks.
Right.
Which luckily I'm like healthy right now. So like that's like, knock on wood or whatever.
Yeah.
At least I'm healthy right now. So like no big injuries or anything like that. So that's solid. That's a godsend of all things.
Yeah.
But
Well, so when I came through last year, you were still training totally all the time.
Yeah.
Just you were there every day to kick my ass, and I'm back again this year, and you're still kicking my ass, which is awesome.
But you're doing a lot better.
It's different, isn't
That's
it?
fantastic.
Yeah. It gets better. It gets better. Today was fun at open mat. Like
Yeah.
it's funny because you go from being the worst guy in the room, which is how it is for like a long time.
A long time.
And I'm finally like, maybe I'm the second worst guy in the room, and it's like, wow, I've been at this for a while just to be the second worst guy in the room. But
I'm still the third worst guy in the room most of the time, so it's fine.
I don't think that's true in most rooms, but very modest of you. But no, it's a lot of fun. And this time around, I got to engage with some of the striking stuff too. And I definitely see that. Like I really enjoyed it. And so I'll be pursuing that. So, next time I'll be back for more of that.
Yeah, the striking stuff gets addictive because it's just like jiu-jitsu. Like you're trying to figure out like how do you move your body and how do you do this the best? And you're like, okay, now it's a challenge.
Yeah.
And so that becomes a big part. Like,
the coordination is the real challenge of it,
Yeah. I have no coordination outside of MMA and jiu-jitsu. Like I am super, I would say clumsy in my opinion in the fact that like I'll trip up the stairs, like down the stairs. Like it's just like if I'm gonna stub my toe, like I'm gonna stub it for like a gold star.
Really?
Yeah.
See, that's funny because I feel like jiu-jitsu made me less clumsy, far less clumsy. I have more balance now.
No, I definitely like, as my grandma used to say, like got all my grace from her. Like I just suck at everything, like coordination. I was like throw a football, terrible, like terrible. I know girls who can throw footballs better than I can, for sure.
Sure.
For sure.
Many.
But tell me to throw a punch and we're down. Like it's time to go.
Well, that's cool, man. So jiu-jitsu was first, and then it was into the striking, into the MMA for you.
So like I started with jiu-jitsu, and I was coming 1 day a week, maybe 2 for like the first month, and I was like, man, I'm really like bummed when I'm not there, and I was like, this is terrible. Like I gotta find a way. So I switched jobs again and started working at the cell phone company. And I was like, okay, cool. I can they were like, do you need any time off? I was like, I need to be off by 6 every night, Monday through Thursday, because we only had like 4 days of classes back then, and then Saturday mornings. And they're like, why? I was like, do you want me to tell you the real reason, or what can I get away with so I can have these off? They're like, well, if it's anything religious based, I was like, I have religious things those times. And they like looked at me, and I told them, I was like, I have jujitsu and MMA training. And they're like, you're going to fight? Because also I was still really kind of fat at this time. And I was like, yes, I'm going to. but I'm gonna say it's religious things because it's part of my religion. And they just like looked at me and I was like, are you gonna say no? And they're like, no, we'll approve it. And so they made my schedule and signed it off.
Nice.
But so like within the first like 2 months, I started going like 4 times a week and just getting wrecked by everybody. Because for a while, me and this other purple belt named Eric, we were the new guys for probably 6 months to a year. Like the newer guys who were consistent. Like you'd have the new guys who came in who like were there for a week or 2 weeks or a month. But like me and Eric have been there together the whole time, the last 6 years. And so we just got beat up all the time, choked out, bloody nose, like, and that was like from the striking part. And so, yeah, it was just, at least I had a buddy. Like, it was like, I had a buddy, like, what do you say? Like,
some type of support
like those
system
school system buddies. They're like, always have your buddy with you.
Right.
Like, yeah, I was like, I don't want to get hurt tonight. He's like, we have to go. I was like, I know, but I was just wanting to say I was just going to let you vent too. It's okay. Like my wrist hurts. My ribs hurt. All right, cool. At least we're both in pain. Like, and we went on about the day. So that was really cool.
That's good, man. I mean, I feel like I could need that if I was in one place at any given time.
Yeah.
But I think the benefit to me is that like I can either be excited or nervous for like a new gym. But I know at some point, like even if I don't have a great night, like it'll kind of be over and I'll be like at a different gym with a different experience.
Yeah, which is super cool because then you get to see like, especially like you kind of have gone to a bunch of different 10th planets. So you're like seeing the 10th planet system through so many different like variations and styles and like teaching methods.
Yeah. And which is, it's always just a reflection of the coach is like whatever the coach is really good at, that's sort of the style of the gym, which has been kind of cool. I told Andrew today that I get to be a mutt, which like, it's good to be a mutt. Like purebred dogs, you know, they win the shows and everything, but like the mutts live a really long time.
Fact.
And they're tough.
They really do. Like there's no like huge like defects because they're like just a mutt.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but
that's
like
my theory.
Yeah, just like our training is a little different. Like you were just at Tucson, you were telling us with Anthony Burchak, and like he's super phenomenal wrestler, like a killer. And so I've seen like some of their practices and stuff. I've never been there, but like they seem super wrestling heavy. So when you see their demos and their videos, like their wrestling background into like the 10th planet system is really cool to like see and understand.
Yeah, everybody's got a unique way of doing this, but it is cool as a universal language because it doesn't really matter what gym I go into. It doesn't matter if it's a Gracie school. It doesn't matter at all. I mean, when I put the gi on, I don't know anything. You know, that's the one thing. Like as long as it's a no gi school, I'm speaking the same language as whoever I'm rolling with.
Yeah.
But as soon as that gi goes on, I'm like I don't even know what's coming. Yeah. Someone will just grab both sides of the collar, and then all of a sudden I'm tapping. I'm like, what? Wait, that's not fair. That's not how that works.
Yeah, I think I put it on one time to like drill with somebody for like a gi tournament, and I immediately within like a minute and a half took it off, and I was like, yeah, this isn't happening.
Sucks.
They're like, what's wrong? I was like, one, I like need to learn how to tie my belt, but two, I was like, you just choked me out with my own clothing and gave me like carpet burn on my neck, so I'm pissed in like 3 different levels.
Yeah, bro.
I was like,
it's like just like wearing a sauna suit. It's so hot.
It's terrible.
Like, I'll never quite get it. Like, kudos to all you gi wearing dudes. It's fun, and I see, and
kudos to the
they're
gi
savages.
guys.
You know, it's great, but
kudos to the gi wearing guys who like just let all like the like chest hamburger meat hang out, and kudos to the guys who let that happen to them when the better higher belt is on top of you and you just have to get a full face full of hair. Like that's terrible.
Yeah,
and I applaud your dedication.
Yeah,
because I might have quit at that point. Like if I would have gone to a gi school and some 240-pound dude would have like just all hair on my face, that might have been done. We might be living a different life.
It's a uniquely personal thing, isn't it? It's so really strange. It's like I know a lot of people where it's like my face has been just like buried in your butt, and like I'm not sure that I'm okay with it, but like it is part of the sport at some point.
We made a mutual agreement for it to be okay right now.
Yeah, it is upsetting though, and it's funny, you know what? But it's a guy thing, isn't it? There's such discomfort with having any physical touch with another dude, and it's something that I struggled with when I first started. But I was like, this is part of the sport, and so I need to get over it too.
Yeah.
But then you see now when a new guy comes in, and you just want him to collar tie you, just like put your hand on my neck, bro. Fucking, you grab that. And that's it. And they're like they're uncomfortable with that.
They're almost like super light on the touch.
Real light on touch.
Like
they
can't put their weight. Want to
touch
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's super weird. Like I had my own like weird things. Like I would say I thought I was a very touchy person like before jiu-jitsu, and then I just realized like I only liked being affectionate towards women as being a touchy person. Like
I agree with that. I'm still not touchy towards men.
No. And then now I would say even more so like I'm so touchy all the time at jiu-jitsu, like having to be, especially because I'm like of how many times I train per week, that like outside of jiu-jitsu, I'm like, yeah, if you cannot touch me, that'd be
Right?
great.
Yeah.
Like, I've had all the personal contact I can for a lifetime today already.
Yeah.
And I have to do it again tomorrow morning and tomorrow night. Like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Plus, it was sweaty and wet. So, like, that was also a big downside for me.
It starts to scramble your brain, too, because, like, I remember first starting, I would just go to give Andrew a hug or something. I'd be like, see, now I have double unders. What that means? Like, like, you have to take it. You can't help yourself,
You really can't.
If, like, even still, like, her leg is on my leg the other night as we're, like, sitting there on the couch. And I, like, pick up her leg, and I just, like, put 4 different, like, heel hook kind of grips on it. And then I was like, why did I do that?
Why did that happen?
Like, I'm sorry.
It's so obviously, like I already mentioned, like I haven't dated in a long time, which is fine. But the last girl I dated was like probably 2.5 years ago, and I was really getting heavy into rubber guard at the time and trying to like really get good at it. So like we'd be laying there on the couch, and she'd like have her head on my chest, and like I would like try to start to work rubber guard. Like now, like we used to be watching TV, and I'd be bored, and I'd be like, all right, well we're not gonna like go downstairs and do anything, so I guess we'll just like stay here and watch TV, and your parents are home. Like she lived with her mom at the time, and I was like, I guess we'll but then like I would start doing rubber guard. Her mom would come in there and be like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm just working some jujitsu stuff. And her mom would give me this super weird look, and I was like, and she would like look at me like, I was trying to figure it out, but I was just gonna let you go with it because you've done it before. And I was like, yeah, I was just trying to get some extra training in. Like don't mind me. The time I finally figured out I was going too far was like we were doing it, and like I literally without thinking got up, and like we were just laying on the couch, not like doing it, but like laying on the couch, and like I got up and I was like, hey, come here real quick. She's like, what? I was like, all right, like sit on your knees, okay, come here, let me try. And like without a second thought, I didn't think it was weird that I just interrupted like the football game we were watching to try this jiu-jitsu stuff, and I was trying to teach her what to do so I could work on it. And then she was like, did you really just like move us down here? And I was like, oh yeah, I definitely did. I was like, jiu-jitsu. I have a problem. Like I have an addiction, and I'm okay with it. Yeah. It's better than cocaine is what I always say.
Yeah, it's better than a lot of things, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
But shout out to all the women that put up with us, because once you start,
you're the real ones.
Yeah, it is what it is. It cools down, right? I don't bug you that much these days. No, I don't. The other day, like
that look
only when you go to class and there's like a really cool new thing. Like the other day, like Blake was showing us something really cool, and I came home and I was like, I gotta show you this. This is such a cool spot. But no, it's a good addiction. Well, it classifies as a good addiction, right?
Yeah.
Changes lives.
Yeah.
Got you in shape, man.
Yeah, I was heavily out of shape. I was
How heavily?
So back when I was touring with bands, I was like a couple pounds north of like 350.
Damn.
Like I went to the doctor for like a checkup, and they're like, hey, we're gonna do this thing called the DEXA scan on you, which is like basically it's an acronym for some really fancy thing, but basically it's like a full body scan of like how much fat you have, where you store your fat, and it makes your scan all these really pretty colors to show you how unhealthy you are.
Damn.
Right?
Yeah.
And so mine, they did it, and you like lay on this table, and it feels like an MRI, and you're like, all right, cool, like it's not gonna be that bad. And they're like, hey, dude, you're 22. And you're like 45% body fat and like 350, like 2 pounds. You probably need to lose some weight, or you're going to die in like the next couple of years. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, sure. And obviously I went and toured for a while after that, and then got into jiu-jitsu. But I like tried to start making healthy things of like eating better. And like I had a gym pass. So like when I wasn't touring, I was going to the gym all the time. And like I worked my way down to like 300 pounds, which was great. And then I started jiu-jitsu, and I was like 280. Like for my first fight, I had to cut like 5 to 10 pounds just to make the 265 max for heavyweight.
Wow.
Like I was like, so this is what happens when you're fat and you have to cut weight even to make the heaviest weight class. All right, cool.
Dude.
So, but jiu-jitsu obviously has helped me like be healthy and like not be a complete piece of crap my whole life of just like eating like crap. And like I just remember a time when I used to eat a whole thing of Oreos in a sitting. Like that was life. Like you get a half gallon of milk and like just devour a whole thing of Oreos. Damn. In like in watching a movie, just chilling, or like buying like whatever candy you want. Like you bought 3 bags of candy and man, you ate all 3 bags of candy. Damn, like that shit happened.
Wow, dude.
Like, I don't know if you ever like remember if you ever went to KFC, but they had like those famous bowl things that were like mashed potatoes and like chicken and corn. It was just like it was basically just like a really big bowl of all the things KFC made, and they're like, we're gonna call it like a meal.
Yeah.
Like, no, it was a heart attack. But I remember I would order 2 of those at a time, and they were like a couple thousand calories per one, and just eat them both down. Like,
Holy
no,
shit, man.
no regrets, no heartburn, no like feeling a full. Because I'd eat them, and I was like, I was all emotionally screwed up, and like ate for all like emotional reasons.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. Was it just like you were hungry, or was it like this is some type of emotional
it was a little bit of
addiction
both.
kind of
Like,
thing?
like growing up, I was always like kind of the hefty kid. Like I went from like the really skinny kid, got asthma, and like was on a bunch of inhalers to where I was like on like my doctor, I think at one point had me on like 10 inhalers a day as a kid.
Jesus.
Yeah, like I would wake up and take one, and then have to take one before I went outside and played, and like I do breathing treatments with like the little mask thing every day, and it was terrible. But I did that for like a couple years, and like I literally went from like this little skinny kid to this really overweight kid in like a year, like 50 to 60 pounds in like a year as a kid. And like my appetite got more and more just because I was on these steroids all the time from asthma, and like,
Whoa, dude.
I was getting allergy shots every week. Like they'd give me like 3 shots in each arm as a kid, like as a 12-year-old kid every week, like, just the crazy amounts of stuff. And so finally I just was like, I told my mom one day, I was like, hey, I'm done taking all my medication. And she was like, well, I like, we can wean you off of it, and like, we'll see how it goes. And I was like, cool. And so we weaned myself off of it and just quit going to the doctor. And like, I never had any issues. I was like, I don't know if I grew out of it or this dude just wanted to prescribe me a bunch of meds and like make money off me.
Oh, it's so fucked up.
But oh yeah, so
either way, it's fucked up.
Either way, it's fucked up. So like, I just was like, and I grew up on a farm, so I'm like, well, I'm definitely outside in nature, and I'm not like having an asthma attack, so I think we're good. But yeah, so like as I got bigger, like I loved all my friends as a kid, but like it's all those like little jabs from the important people that like really get to you is what I've learned. And so like, just, you know, like the girl who'd be like, you're my best friend, or you're such a teddy bear, versus like, oh, I want to date you, or oh, I want to be with you, or, you know, but you'll like my friend who's like more of a dick than I am, but he's skinnier or more attractive or whatever it was, or not overweight. And so like, it was always those digs. And then I was kind of like the human punching bag for like 4 years in my friend group of like, I just chose to be the bigger man was what I said to myself in my head. And really I was just trying not to be like, I just thought it was like, this is what you do in life. Like, you're just the bigger man and people pick on you and like it all works out in the end. No, fuck that shit. Like, now we punch people in the face.
Yeah.
Like now it's like, hey, you did this. Here's your receipt. It's called a punch or a choke. Like, it's what life is nowadays.
Man.
But yeah, I mean, I remember one time, like, it was right around when like that first Jackass movie came out, and everybody thought it was really funny to hit each other in the balls.
Okay.
Like, that was a terrible time to be a teenager.
Yeah.
I remember one time, like, 2 of my buddies, for about 4 days in a row, I probably got hit in the balls like 3 or 4 times a day for like 4 days in a row. And I remember I, at one point, was like, they were like, hey, man, we're going to go hang out. And I was like, yeah, I'm staying home. Like, if I was an adult now, I probably would have said, like, I'm going to, go ice my balls because they hurt from you punching me all the time.
Right. Like,
that's where I was at.
Yeah.
I was like, I hope I can still have kids one day, like, if I want them.
It was like problems with conflict. It was like not being able to directly address that conflict and tell your friends who, you know.
Oh,
stop
for
being
sure.
dicks.
Well, like, I always put off this persona that I was the nice kid too, but really I was just pissed at everybody all the time. Like, I just was angry and mad at everybody all the time because I didn't stand up for myself and like make like things a bigger deal. So like, there's this book, it's called Relentless, but it's like, this is the easy way to explain it. It's like, you're born relentless and then you're taught to like relent, like by society and like things like that. Like, you were just taught to be like, fit this mold and be this person, and like that's who you have to be accepted. And so like, I wanted that so bad because I was already the fat kid. I was already like the outcast. I had friends, but I was like the outcast of the friend group.
Yep.
That was just like always invited last or always thought about last. So like, I was like, okay, the more I like can be that perfect mold, even if I'm fat, I'm gonna be accepted and like people will want to hang out with me. And so that just made me like very docile and almost like very like, oh, you hit me in the face. That's great. You want to do it again? Like, not because I'm turning the other cheek, but just because it made you happy. Like, or like, oh, you guys want me to pay for dinner tonight? Oh yeah, it's fine. I'll pay for 6 people. It's totally cool. Like, just stupid stuff.
Just
like
getting
that.
shoved around, but not even getting shoved around, because it's that's sort of like the victim mentality, because you were letting yourself.
Oh
get
yeah,
shoved
like I was
around.
hoping they would want me to come and pay for stuff just because I wanted to hang out with them, because I wanted to be considered like the go-to friend or the best friend or the whatever it was. Like I would go out of my way to be the doormat, because being the doormat was better than not being there at all.
It's all so cyclical and self-fulfilling,
yeah.
you know?
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's so dark, dude.
Super dark.
And you managed to break that cycle and spin that around and go 180 degrees for all those folks who think it's 360 degrees. It's 180 degrees.
That's a circle. I would have came right back to cyclical and being a doormat.
So you did the 180
Yeah.
and you went back and you turned it completely around now.
Yeah.
And I also think that, you know, like all of that pain like makes a better person, because there's a good chance you know what a real friend is now and how people place their value and what it means, and that you wouldn't be that for somebody else.
Yeah. I mean, a huge part of it, like even for my clients, like they understand, like one of the biggest reasons is I'm like, hey, I understand like how you feel. Like I went through that. And I mean, I don't give them the whole long speech, but the longer they train with me and things like that, I'll let, you know, them into it a little more. Not that I have problems talking about it, but it's just a lot sometimes for people to like take on, and then like they're coming to you for their issues, and then now you're like spilling your old issues onto them. So it's like, I don't want to make it about me, so I'll wait a while and just try to relate to them, but at least I can relate to them. But for my personal training clients, but yeah, it was a really dark place, and like it kind of came to like I would just have like random blow-ups as a kid, like to where it was like the volcano erupted and I would just like lose my shit anger wise. And like I remember one time I was like volunteering at this church I went to, and my sister was like technically like my boss because she worked there, and like even though I was a volunteer, it was this weird like church thing, which is fine. Like church is still cool, but like it was just this weird thing at the time. And like we went home, and like my friends gave her shit, so she thought it was cool to give me shit. And I'd already like had my limit of the day of shit that I wanted to take, and probably like a lifetime at that point. And I was like 14 or 15. And we got home, and she just said something, and it just like it hit the button, like it like hit the like nuclear launch button. And I just started yelling at her, like if I could tear down like Godzilla type buildings, like that's what was happening. Like I was just ripping her a new one in every way, like to a point where my dad was downstairs at our house, came upstairs and was like, what the fuck is going on? And like yelling at me, and like we're all Italian, so we're all loud as shit anyway. Like, those are that it's just what happens. And so then I'm just like red in the face, like snot, tears, anger, volcano erupting. And I was just like, and so every time that happened, it reinforced because my parents would get mad, and like then they talked to me, and like they were super cool, and they try to be understanding of why I got upset and like exploded. But then it would make me even more be like, you have to control that. Like I would talk to myself, and I'd be like, you can't do that, man. Like you have to control that. You have to be like this little box and this little cube, and like everybody needs to like you. If you do that shit, man, dudes aren't gonna like you. Like what if you have a girlfriend and you do that shit? Like then you're gonna be like that guy who's mean to his girl. So like my mental game, like my psychological game, like I was just literally like fucking punching myself in the face every time for stuff that was like a natural like reaction to life. And so I was just like compounding all this stuff to where like I would just push stuff down, and then every once in a while it would blow up, but then I'd blow up and I'd like push more stuff down because I was like, you can't act that way. And like, yeah, it was a vicious cycle. So
what was the wake up call then? So you went to the doctor and they were like, you're crazy unhealthy.
Like
was that it?
That wasn't it. It was actually like, I mean, if you want to, this is like semi dark.
Well, you don't have to get like too deep.
I know.
It's up to you, man.
I mean, I talk about it now, so it's not a huge deal. I mean, if like my parents watch this, they might not know, but like, hey mom, dad, you know now, like just FYI.
Breaking.
Like, my dad does a lot of like firearms training and stuff. He used to be a cop, so he does a lot of stuff for like civilians now, and just like to make them more educated and things like that. He runs his own business. Well, it was probably back when I was like 17, 18, right before college, and like my grandpa had just passed away like 3 or 4 years prior, and me and him were really close, and like so I like had never really gotten over that because I'd never like let myself deal with it. my parents were out of town. I was just home, and like, I'm 18. Like, I was like, okay, cool. We live on a farm. Like, I'm by myself. Like, and I just was like, I think I'm done with life. And like, that was terrible. Like, that's a terrible thought. You should never be done with life. But that was the thought that went through my head. Like I said, it's a little dark, but I can talk about it now. It's totally okay. Because I would never do that. Mm-hmm. But I had like, I was 18. I was responsible with firearms at the time. Like, and I still am. But like, and my dad had always taught me to be responsible. And I just had my own gun, and like, I just was sitting on my bed and like had the gun and like put it in my mouth, and I was like, awesome, like this is how it's gonna go. And then like I laugh about it now because it's such an awkward thing to talk about, and so like I'm not laughing that suicide is funny, but like
I know
it's just one of those weird things to talk about. And I was like almost there, and I just I like felt like I heard my grandpa's voice just talk to me, and like in the nicest way possible. Like, he told me not to be a little bitch. Like, and like, not that suicide like isn't like a mental, like a totally psychological thing that you need to like help with, and that it's not okay to deal with that. Like, you should definitely deal with it. But like, for me, like that's what it came through, was like, he wouldn't want me to like give up on trying. Mm-hmm. Like, that was the whole point of it, was like, it was him telling me like not to give up on trying, because like life is worth it, and like my life was worth it.
Damn.
And so like, it was a very like felt like a very real, intimate like conversation with him about life. And he'd have been gone for a couple of years. So it was like one of those things that I was like either that was you, or that was like my like super subconscious, like talking me out of it. And so it was just like, that was kind of the turning point, at least for like the mental aspect of it. Of like where I had something I had to try to do with my life. So like, that was like the like cusp of the turning point, at least the mental side of it, of like not wanting to be a doormat anymore. And that's when I started to shift little things around to like where I had to like learn, because at that point, like obviously then I just sat there on the bed like, what the hell was I gonna do? Like this whole like wide open deer in the headlights kind of look on my face of like, what was I doing? Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And then obviously then it's like, then you think like, why didn't you go through with it? And then like your mental game starts playing again. But then it was like, okay, like let's reevaluate my like life here really quick. Like, I don't have a bad life. It's not that big of a deal. Like, the emotional trauma stuff, like I need to deal with it. I need to work through it. Like, I need to talk about it with somebody. And I did. Like, you should always like go and find help somewhere, like if you're dealing with stuff like that, because it's hard to deal with it on your own. But like, and I talked to like, later on, never told my parents necessarily about that situation, but I would talk to them more about my feelings and how I felt, and like really work through stuff. And so like that helped. But that was where the mental shift of like understanding I needed to address things and not just like shove them down and push them away, because they were such a big part of like that paradigm shift and that like difference. So that was like the real mental point. The physical point was when I was like 22 and they're like, hey, you're going to die if you don't lose weight. But the mental point was right around like that 17, 18, becoming a man age thing, I guess.
Yeah. Well, man, appreciate you sharing that. That's tough. That is.
Yeah, it's taken a long time. Like, I didn't share that with anybody like the first time ever until I was probably like 25, 26, like a couple years ago, just because it was something I like almost felt like it was disgraceful, or if it was like frowned upon or things like that, or it was just like something that made me look bad. And like,
yeah,
obviously now I just don't care. Like, it's a part of my life.
It's stuff some people need to hear too.
Yeah.
You know? It's important. This might be an odd direction, but go with me for a minute. Jeremy and I were talking the other day on his podcast about the ego.
Yeah.
Now, I think people misunderstand what the ego is and
Yeah.
define it wrong.
Yeah.
And you hear a lot in the world of jiu-jitsu, like, oh, this crushes your ego.
Yeah.
And what a good thing is that, to have your ego crushed.
Yeah.
But what people don't understand, and I think, what we don't teach children too, and what probably could have helped you at that time, is understanding that the ego is simply your ability to want things.
Yeah.
And you need it to stay alive. You need to want to be
100%.
alive, because it's at the point of lowest ego that you either sacrifice yourself for whatever reason that is,
Yeah.
And so I think that it's interesting to come at jiu-jitsu with, because my perspective is that it isn't an ego crush. It's an ego crush in the way that people define ego conventionally.
Yeah.
But I think that that's inaccurate usually.
Yeah.
You know, it'll crush having a big head or trying to be the toughest guy in the room.
It'll definitely like squash that alpha, that almost like alpha mentality of, of like, I have to show I'm the best all the time. Right. So like, it's not necessarily, I think like you said, like an ego crush. It's more of like just this, like, be humble enough to learn. Like that's kind of that issue. And it's like, cause your ego is good in the sense of like, not this ego, like I am the best, I am so grand, like this big puffed up fake chest kind of thing.
Right.
It's more of like, no, like I value myself. Like your ego is that part of you that you're like, I value myself. Like I want great things for myself. I deserve great things.
And you need pride and self-esteem to accomplish those things.
Oh, for sure.
But by the way, and this is what people really don't like, pride and self-esteem take work, like a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it's that consistent cycle where, you know, I like to put it, I don't know if it's quite that accurate anymore, but I mean, my thought is usually like I wake up and I have absolutely nothing to be proud about. And all of a sudden, whatever self-esteem I've developed in my life is gone. And I'm a blank slate again for whatever reason. Like there's no track, it never hangs on. And so you have to start proving it to yourself right away. I have to get the first thing right and be like, I did that. And it's only the shit days where you skip the first hard thing. And for some people, that's like skip the workout in the morning. And it's like, yep, you just blew your shot at like getting ahead on that pride train and having any esteem with yourself.
The morning rituals are huge. Like my mental coach, like I work with one for MMA, but he kind of just does my life too. His name's Caleb Rogers. Obviously, shout out mental sensei. But I love everybody who like is in my team for MMA, so I'll say their names to everybody every time I can. But like he'll talk about like we win the mornings and like, you know, we have like, you know, a setup, like I wake up and like I meditate and then I go through like my affirmations and like the mornings I like, and we try to get those every morning. And like, you know, there'll be mornings I miss, but he'll even talk about it. It's like, hey, the mornings you miss, like maybe you woke up late. Like last week I was talking to him, I met with him on Friday and yesterday, and he was like, hey, like how was like the goals for this week? And I was like, these 2 mornings I woke up late, so I didn't get everything, but I got these. He's like, all right, well, like, did you let that affect you the rest of the day? Like, man, I like fucked up. I didn't get those. Or did you reset and like take a breath and like, hey, at least I got my affirmations, I got my like devotional or my journaling in, and then you went about it. And I was like, yeah, like even I've been working with him for a couple of years. Like even I have to be reminded of like, hey, like embrace the things that you did do right in the morning to like get your esteem to be like, man, I did a lot of good things this morning still. Like I didn't like mess up my whole morning. You know what I mean? Like you still have to reward those wins that are still, even if they're small and they're not the full win, like they're a win.
Yeah. I don't know why it's, well, I have some theories as to why it's so baked into us to like completely dump any sort of self-esteem constantly, you know, and it's that same, it's the poison thing, right? The whole, if something is poisonous, we remember it 10 times more than something that's good. Right. So I think it does come down to that. I think there are some societal issues that we have to address to why we all feel bad all the time. And I think maybe it's considered often like a virtue to put yourself down. And that's certainly what you were trying to do as a kid was people will like me better if I don't really like myself.
If I don't make waves, people will like me better.
Yeah.
But then you realize like now I've come to the point where like I want to make waves. Like the dudes who make waves and the people who make waves are the ones who like, they're always trying to accomplish their own goals and their own dreams and like be at the top of whatever food chain they're in. And like those are the guys who are like hungry for everything they want.
Mm-hmm.
They are hungry for their goals, their dreams, their passions, everything, like, and they just want to succeed at all of them.
Right.
And they don't care who they really piss off at the end of the day because they're going to get what they want.
Right. But it's also important that those end goals don't hinge on like other people's opinion of you. You know what I mean? Like it should never be like, I want to, it'd be like this podcast. Like I don't do this podcast to become famous. Yeah. If that was the end goal, I'm going to be fucked up even if I get to that goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Cause you'll get there and then you'll be like, okay, now it's next. And you've lost this whole passion that you had for it because your goal was like a fiscal or a very intangible thing that didn't matter.
Right. As long as the power resides with other people to tell you if you've reached your goal or not, that's a major issue. As opposed to knowing like my goal is to create something really good, and the byproduct could be people could like it.
Yeah,
that's fine, but it shouldn't affect my self-esteem whether people like it or not.
Yeah, because even if they don't like it, like you still like it, and you were doing what you want to do, and it's fun for you.
So that's like the other trap is like there's the one trap of like destroy your ego so much that you literally have no will to live. And then the second trap is the other one, which is, focus entirely on the outcome being other people's feelings about you. Yeah. Which you'll never ever win. No. You can't name someone who's universally popular. It is impossible.
Everyone hates somebody, no matter how much that person is liked by everybody else.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. So it's I don't know. It's strange, but it's. I also kind of, it helps me understand you a little more.
Yeah.
Like this story, because I think that most of us remain on the middle ground of life.
Yeah.
And knowing that you fight, that's an extreme of life.
Oh yeah. Like, so, I don't settle for like that middle.
You don't like that middle calm place.
Like the middle is like very good for some people, and that's like where they should be, and that's where they want to be, and that's awesome. I was at the super low end of it. So when I was coming up, I was like, fuck the middle. Like, we're going just to the top of the extreme. And so, and that kind of played with like my personality shift and like that paradigm shift from like where I was to where I'm at now. Because I had this really interesting, it goes along with this. It's like going up and like getting started in my fight career and things like that. I had to figure out how to go from being this dude who wanted to be the doormat to, okay, I want to fight because I love it and I love jujitsu and I want to be a world champ. To one day to, okay, how do I let the beast out and like kill these motherfuckers? Like that's really what the shift was.
Yeah.
And so, the last couple of years, like that's why I really started working with like mental coach and all these different things, is because I was like, I don't know how to pull this out of me. I spent years trying to push it down and like get rid of this whole like super masculine, like kill or be killed, like type of energy. And I don't know where to pull that from. Like I need a psychiatrist, or like I need like something to help me figure it out. And so me and him have worked on it. And there was one conversation we had a couple of years ago, and he's like, there's two options. There's usually two types of people. On one end, you have like a competitor who likes to just like figure out the best way to win. And then you have the fighter. And the fighter is more like the Diaz brothers, who just like to go in there and like beat the crap out of people and like get the crap out of them. Yeah. And then you have like a competitor, which would be like Wonder Boy Thompson, who likes to be super technical, doesn't want to get hit a lot, but like, and wants to win. Or like even, I would say somebody like even like Kamaru Usman, who's super technical now, like he doesn't want a dogfight usually. He wants to like be super technical, win, wrestle, get point, like all that stuff. And that's really cool. But I was like, and then you got like the hybrid in the middle who kind of likes to do both. Like they'll get dirty if they have to, but they kind of want to stay clean. And I was like, honestly, like, I'm more towards this end. Like, I kind of like to be in that, like, war, like that. And I use the term war very loosely because fighting is not a war. Fighting is fighting. But, like, it's, like, I like to be towards this end. Like, I kind of like to get punched a little bit. I like to obviously punch a lot. I like to, like, blood's cool. All that stuff's good. And then I've had to learn to be more like, okay, now we have to actually have tactics and like be smart about things. And like my brain isn't always going to be awesome. So like I should probably take care of it.
Yeah, that's the one thing. The longevity of like the brawler
is not like, solid.
Nah, it falls apart pretty quick.
Yeah, it's like it's definitely cutting your time in like into a three-fourths as long or half as long. So it's like, we should probably.
And you can shine real bright, but then it's gonna go out. Yeah,
you're done.
There's like, there's no free lunch like biologically. You can't get away with anything.
Like you're not the one dude who has the brain who's impervious to like CTE or concussion syndrome or anything like that.
Yeah,
like you got to take care of your brain. Everybody should. But yeah, and then once we figured that out, it was like, okay, like how do we develop this like killer instinct, like this very like beast mentality, like masculine energy, like just like don't give a fuck about people. Because I had worked so many years on, like, I care about everybody. Like, everybody deserves a trophy. Like, that was, like, my mentality of life. Like, everybody deserves to win. But really inside, I'm like, I deserve to win. Fuck everybody else. Like, those were the thoughts I had inside my head as a kid. Like, I probably didn't cuss as much as a kid, but that's fine. But when I tell stories, it makes it seem cooler. but like, as a kid, I'd be like, everybody deserves to win. Or I'd be like the kid, I'm like, I'm not super competitive. It's okay. Like, you can win or you can, like, play this game before me. And then in my head, I'm like, I just want to win. Like, why the fuck did I let you go first? Like,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, I'd lose a game and like I try to be all nice on the outside so I wouldn't be a sore loser.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the inside, I'm like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
Like I'm so angry inside.
No, I had some of that anger too. Not nearly as far as you, but same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you know, the nice thing is, I don't know. I think with our school system, the way we like treat different ages, you do have a chance to reinvent yourself a number of times.
Oh,
you know?
for sure.
You can get out of high school and reinvent yourself and be a different person in college, and then you can finish college and reinvent yourself again. You know,
for sure.
There's some chunks, and I kind of see that as like a marker. Like if someone still hangs out with people they knew in college, still hangs out with people they knew in high school, tells you something about where did they reinvent themselves, kind of along the line,
and
which
person did they like the most?
And it's all okay.
Yeah,
like that's fine if that's what makes them happy. But I mean, it's like everything you're describing is just like this just this mixed up notion of selfishness that we have that it's so horrible to care about yourself. And I start seeing that entering the conversation. It's just in some kind of weak ways. Like the whole self-care movement is like, that's weak. I don't know if that really covers what I'm trying to say.
No,
because it's still like, you know, go give everybody everything all the time and then make sure you like get your hair cut. You know, it's not enough, is it?
The self-care talk is really weird because there's so many extremes to it. There's like the self-care of like love your body, love yourself, which is great, but like if you love your body, like you should love your body. Like it's the only body you have. But loving your body also includes like trying to be healthy and trying to be happy, and like maybe you don't want your body to look a certain way to be happy or healthy, but like your heart and your lungs and your liver and your organs would like you to like not eat as much fast food or, you know, not drink as much or things like that. And it's like we covered this whole like very definable and very like unique like option of things for self-care with just this big blanket of like do things for yourself every once in a while and just accept yourself as you are. And it's like, but there's so many ways we can define self-care and like define how we care for ourselves.
Right.
And we aren't addressing that. Like some people need mental health care and some people need physical and some people need like emotional and some people need to like be around people. Some people need to be indoors and not talk to people for a day or two because they're introverts. Like just things like that. And some people need jiu-jitsu. Some people need the gym. And then we just like, well, self-care is whatever you want it to be like. No, it's very definable in the sense of like it's unique to every person and we can define it for ourselves.
Yeah.
But
it's also not always the fun thing. I feel like that's the thing too, because self-care may not be like to just take it easy. Like self-care might be like, you need to get to the gym today.
Yeah,
like
it
sucks, but that would be actually caring if that's what you needed.
Well, like it's also self-care has turned into, as also being this big blanket of BS, it's also turned into the biggest excuse for like when you don't want to do something that's hard.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I need to go run errands today. But I really need to have a self-care day. Are you kidding me? Like, go get your adult shit done. Like, like go to the bank, go to the post office. Like, I know it sucks. I have those same moments. I'm driving home from work, from training clients all day. And I'm like, man, I really need to go get my oil changed. I need to wash my car and I need to go to the grocery store. Or, you know, luckily, like my best friend, like sometimes, like, especially when fight camps come up, she'll go to the grocery store and like pick up groceries. And that's awesome. And I appreciate that a lot. But like, the self-care part, like people will just be like, oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go through the drive-through, go home, watch some TV and like soak my feet or take a hot bath. And that's like my self-care night because it was a really hard day at work. No, you're just being lazy. Like nobody wants to do the hard things anymore. Like nobody wants to, you know, take care of their health. Nobody wants to like work out so they don't have to be on so many heart medications or pills. Nobody wants to quit eating fast food. Nobody wants to, you know, pick an activity that's outside because it's too hot or it's too cold. And it's just like self-care became the big excuse of I just don't want to do it because hard things suck and I want the easiest path possible.
Yep.
And that's just, I mean, obviously because of jiu-jitsu, like jiu-jitsu doesn't let you have the easy path. I mean, you can have the easy path. It just means the easy path is going to be you getting put in a lot of pain and getting choked out or tapped out or like your arm hurt or your shoulder hurt, especially like if you're being like super nonchalant and you're just letting people tap you all the time. Like, I mean, I know a lot of gyms that'll take that. So if you want that, go do that. But just so you can say you do jujitsu.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Because again, that's the outcome for other people instead of the outcome for yourself. Because you know, if you worked hard tonight, you know, and yeah, man, I couldn't agree more with what you're putting out there. I mean, I think it's true, and I think you only really get the pride bit from doing the hard stuff that you know you
Yeah.
ought to do. And that's not to say that self-care couldn't be like go take a bubble bath, because
Yeah,
it's
no,
like you
it
said,
totally
everybody's got their
can.
own definition, but maybe the bubble bath comes after you did the thing that actually brought you some pride.
Yeah.
And then you're in the bubble bath fucking celebrating instead of guiltily realizing all the things you skipped, you know.
100%.
I tend to feel like traveling is like it's a life hack in a lot of ways.
No, dude, it
Like,
has to be.
We've learned a lot and changed so much because we're in different places all the time. And one of the things that we've only recently learned even is like when do we actually feel like we're caught up?
Yeah.
Like, what is it that makes me feel like I'm caught up? Because so often I think like we would make the excuse of like, oh, I'll get to that when I catch up.
Yeah.
And I can never really define what catch up means because I'm so
you're
tired
always
all the time.
traveling,
Yeah.
right? And you're always
Right.
driving and always like doing things.
There's always something that I'm totally exhausted from. So when I'm caught up, like I'll handle that other thing. But what we started to realize is like you only feel caught up when you're doing some of those things that have a little more longevity. Like I only feel caught up if I do the laundry, and I may not want to do the laundry, but if I do it, I feel really caught up.
Yeah.
Or if I like Andrew's been rearranging some stuff and reorganizing us in the RV, and it's like we don't feel caught up, but as soon as you do that, now we feel like we're caught up because only people who are caught up would bother organizing stuff,
Right.
you know? So you kind of like flip it around on yourself. And I feel like it's the same way where you get that pride because you did the thing you totally didn't want to.
Well, that's the thing too, is like with workouts and like for me, like, you know, either it's jiu-jitsu and MMA or have like a strength and conditioning workout. Like on Fridays is my cardio day. By no means do I like to do cardio. It is I have to do it because I would rather do it now than get winded in the cage and get punched in the face more. Like those are my two options. So I'm going to do the cardio now in private so I don't get punched in the face in public. Like those are the two options. So it's like
priorities,
right? But I will say like I feel way more rewarded when I get up in the morning, do all my stuff, get here, get on the assault bike for 20 minutes, whatever it is that my coach has, and actually do it. And then I get done with it and I may feel like crap, but I'm like, all right, I did that today.
Yeah.
Like I still have to train tonight, but I did that today and I feel really good about it because I went in here and I earned like my pride. Like that's the whole thing. If you just have pride because you're prideful but you didn't earn it, it's just like, I'm so great because I make a lot of money, or I'm so great because I sleep around all the time, or whatever it is, which I mean, those can be like things that you like to do that give you pride, cool, whatever. Or you're just prideful because you think you should be prideful. That's like the BS ego type stuff where I feel like people talk about ego, they talk about that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're full of pride and full of like confidence because you earned it, because you went and did your workout at 6 a.m., or you went and worked out after you got off a 10-hour shift, or you made it to your kid's soccer game when you were when you didn't think you were going to have time, or because you missed out on sleep so you could go watch it. Like those are things that you earned it. Like it wasn't given to you. You went out there and you took that shit.
Yeah.
And that's where like
that's
whole
what's really
paradigm
sweet.
shit. Yeah. Just like in jiu-jitsu, like you get smashed over and over and over and over for nights and weeks and months in a row. And then you start smashing other people and you start like not getting smashed all the time and getting out of chokes and getting out of, submissions. And you're like you've earned this like little stand you've built for yourself because you built it and you earned it and you accomplished so many things. So like when you earn pride or earn that confidence, that's totally different. And it comes from such a better, healthier place than fake pride or boastfulness because you just feel like you should be to impress people.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah. That's what I said to Jeremy on the last episode. I was like, we don't have enough words for it. It's the problem is semantics here, because we haven't defined a good enough word that people haven't twisted in a strange way, But there is truly nothing as sweet as doing the thing that you really ought to do, and that also comes with knowing yourself. Like you have to know what actually makes you happy. And once again, folks, like you want to be happy, you have to want something.
Yeah.
That requires an ego.
Yes.
The smushing of the ego, I don't get it.
It's not. That's like killing your ego is not necessarily. It's not the best term for it. It's like you said. There's not a lot of words to describe it because people don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with this talk of like, let's talk about our ego and our vulnerabilities, because again, nobody wants to be vulnerable. Nobody wants to be open, especially in society now, because social media has made everybody feel like they're like this cat, like this little shell of a person, and like they can't be real,
You
or the only real
show your
things
happy
are-
moments,
Yeah.
or show your sad moments if people will like you more because you're doing it. Which is like
I saw
it's so fake all the time.
I saw this dude, like the best ones on social media, not to get off on a side note, but like are the ones where people make fun of other people who are like who obviously filmed something super sad, but like they had to set up their camera and their lighting rig and everything
Right.
to film it.
Right.
Like this dude was like, when your beloved pet dies, and this girl's like snake died, I guess. Like it was this really big python. I wouldn't have had it as a pet, ever. But she's like openly wailing and weeping, right? But it's on camera and it's posted on TikTok.
Right.
And then he came in and goes, and it like said a little thing on the bottom. It was like, when your like beloved pet dies, and then he like went to like cuddle it, and it was like coddling like a broom, something inanimate or whatever.
Yeah.
And he like, but then he came over and had to film a camera recording him like setting up a phone and like adjusting the lights. And I was just like, and then getting on the ground and then being like, and he had like the 3, 2, 1 beep, and then he just started wailing openly. And I'm like, that's exactly what it is. Like, like you're so focused on filming the moment, like you never actually live the moment or in the present. And I'm like, so what is actually going on here?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Like it is sure it's a problem with social media that we always show ourselves at our best moments. Like the highlights. Andrea and I take really nice travel photos, but you didn't see the dump that we stayed in the week before because that's not worth taking a picture of, right? But at the same time, like people kind of need to get over that, because the truth is you'll never be able to get your saddest moments out there on the internet. And it's I'm not saying that they're not needed. I'm not saying we don't need to see that, but you're not going to get that from the internet.
No.
Like go be with your family, man. Like go like end up at a funeral with your family. Now that's an actual moment.
Super sad moment.
And that's not going to happen on the internet. And
No.
it's you ever watch Anthony Jeselnik's comedy special? His first one on Netflix.
I don't think so.
I think it's called Thoughts and Prayers, and it's specifically him talking about how he always gets in trouble for tweeting after tragedies.
Oh, Jesus.
And I love what he says in that one, because he says the thing people don't get is I'm not making fun of the victims of these tragedies, because victims of tragedies aren't on Twitter the day of a tragedy.
Facts.
It's the people who are flocking to social media to talk about how sad they are about the tragedy to get some more attention back to themselves, because it's gone over to this tragedy now.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's such a good perspective on this, because a victim of a tragedy, they're not on Twitter, man.
No.
So you're not hurting their feelings. It's whoever is out there that is, missing the attention of the world again.
100%. Yeah. I totally agree with that. It's just such a weird like shift in thought process to just be like, when everything went from like having a genuine conversation with somebody, or like sharing like who you are as a person with somebody, to let me share it with thousands of people at a time. But it's so watered down and so fake. And then that's where it's like, oh, so this is where like that fake ego comes from, because you're showing us the best parts, or even not even the best parts, fake parts of your life, of your glamour shot change, or your like TikTok dance, or and like you did it at your friend's house. It's not even your house, but you wanted to make sure everybody saw that you looked like you lived in a really nice house,
Right.
or your friend's pool, or the hotel pool, or the X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. But like, and then you're going home and you're like Mazda Miata, or like, your, I don't know, like Toyota Tercel, whatever it was from like back in like the mid 90s, late 2000s, and you're going back to your 1-bedroom apartment by yourself, eating your canned beans, but everybody who knows you thinks that you live in some mansion and drive like a Ferrari and all this stuff. It's like that's so detrimental to your psyche too, because then you feel like such an imposter and such this like wantingness to be better,
Right.
but you can't be, and so then you're mad. It's
It's like it ties to everything we're talking about, because that's the empty ego as opposed to like real pride.
Yeah.
Like I'm happy to show people the things that I'm actually proud of that I've actually done. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
But I don't. It's not the platform for me to show them things I'm not proud of, because I'm currently working on those. That's a project in process, And I don't know, man. It is such a strange thing. And I'm not creating the rules of social media. Like people can do what they want, but if you want to have any connection with reality left, then I don't know. Then I don't think there is a way to have your tragedy play out on the internet.
It's I equate, I think, everything like to nature and just like the animal kingdom. Like I think I was having this conversation with somebody the other day, and we were talking about how like, I think it was Coach, but we were talking about it was Coach, about how like people don't realize that like wilderness is still violent as shit. Like
we just talked about that. He brought this up.
Like we talked about it. I think he said he was talking about it with you, and so that's really funny. But like because I was looking at this photo one time and it had like, it was a lion with like a coyote or a hyena's head in its mouth or whatever. And the quote was really good. And this girl had just talked about the same quote. So I sent her the photo and she like blew up me like, never send me a photo like that again. Like, that's so gross, disgusting. I was like, did you even read the quote? Like, it wasn't about the photo, but I was like, you also understand, like, you talked about being a beast. That's what beasts do. Yeah. They fuck shit up. Yeah. Like, they tear into like flesh. They kill the cute little Bambi deers and gazelles. Like lions are lions. They don't know how to be anything else. Like, they are just primal. They like have baby cubs. They attack animals bigger than them and get like speared by the horns or trampled on, or they kill the animal. Like, that's what happens. Like, they're not like having little tea parties or like hanging out with other like animals that are their food and like chilling by the watering hole. Like, they're out there killing animals daily. That's what they do. So like, if you're gonna say you want to be a beast, you have to understand what that means. Like, that doesn't mean you're gonna be like, I'm just gonna like be the best in the room and the most alpha. No, that means like you don't give a shit. You're gonna do what you have to do and get like things done so you can live.
Yeah.
And that's just like where the whole shift happens. And it's weird.
We understand really well what an animal ought to do, but we don't, and what is correct and right for an animal. And no one's ever really given us a great definition of what a human ought to do. You know, and we have a lot more thoughts than the animal, so we're curious and we would like instruction on that. And I think people have gone all sorts of wrong ways in trying to tell us what is it that a human ought to do with our time. Then, you know,
yeah, because there's a lot of options out there at the moment of what a human can do, and then like there's what you can do, what you should do, what you ought to do, and then what you're allowed to do.
Yeah, and then there's a whole lot of hypocrisy on people's various opinions on that, and so we all feel a little bit lost on that. You know, but I guess that's the point of humans is we're all trying to figure out what is it we're supposed to do, because we're the first ones to think, what am I supposed to do? The rest of them just do it. But no, I sent Jeremy that photo. He just put it up for the open mat, the Easter open mat of the two wolves pulling apart a rabbit.
Like, that's what they do. Like,
it's a pretty good Easter open mat post.
That's 100% like what they do as wolves. Like, they're not like the little like candid shot where they're like smiling with face. No, like they pull animals apart. Like,
through all my like hunting experiences and having different hunters on the podcast, and you know, you go hunting and you take apart an animal and you're like, oh, this is really what this looks like. And there's all sorts of gnarly things that you understand while doing that too, because that lion, that wolf can eat that whole thing raw right there, no problem. In fact, the wolf is probably going to bury it, from what I learned from a wolf expert I had on the podcast, and they're going to go eat it a few weeks later once it really starts to stink. But the thing is, when we're taking apart an animal, there's so many pieces of it that could just kill you if you just ate them right then. There's so many various diseases and all sorts of things. Like, we are so weak, we require our brains to figure out how not to die and how to really put it all together. So when people neglect their brains, they're really neglecting the whole point of being human, the power we actually have.
Yeah, like we have actual like cognitive thought processes that like help us determine good and bad choices depending on our like moral compass.
Right.
And like, you should follow that most of the time. In MMA, we don't follow that, and we just get to actually just do.
Yeah, like, except
less
there's
thinking, more doing.
Yes, because you guys walk in there with the consent first.
Exactly.
There's a consent. There's a rule book.
We already went through all the like logistics of like, what are we allowed to do?
Yeah.
Like,
are you allowed to kick that guy while his hand's on the ground or no?
Sign on the dotted line.
Right.
There is a little set of rules.
Right.
You know, like in the wilderness, to be like, all right, lion, you can't chase the gazelle past this point, so you got to get it by this, like by this branch.
If you didn't have that rule, every MMA fighter would just walk in there with a gun because they'd win. They'd be like, this is done. I just won.
Yeah, I won.
Why would I not bring this?
Like, it would just be like, who had the best tactical setup for the day is what would happen.
Who had the better bulletproof armor?
Exactly.
But that's the entire point, is that because we can make those rules, we can simulate. And I think that's what we've talked about today. Is like you simulate hardship. No one has to come and do this. No one has to come and sweat anymore, man. You can stay comfy all fucking day long. But you've been there. You've been comfy eating only things that made your tongue happy. Where you're like, I could eat 5 more of those. And it does not lead to a place that you want to be.
Like you can be comfortable and die. Like, that's your option. Like, you can be super comfy. Like, what do they say? Like, when people are like getting like elderly people are getting ready to die, like, we're gonna make you as comfortable as possible.
Make you comfortable, right?
Right? Like, comfortability kills. Like hardships is what like keeps you alive, because your body has to like address it as a hardship. Like doing the hard things, that's one thing that like is a motto of mine. Is just like whatever the hard thing is, if like I think about something and I'm like, man, I don't really want to do that, I'm like, well, shit, guess I got to do that. Like in obviously reason, like I'm like, oh, I don't want to kill that person, yes, I got to kill him. Like, no, that's not it. But like, but I don't do that. But like, man, I really don't want to like go wash my car, or I really don't want to like clean out my car, or I really don't want to prep my food tonight. Like, oh, got to do those things. Like, or, you know, because I could not prep my food and then I'm just going to eat shit the next day. And then I'm going to be off weight and then it's going to be even worse later on down the line. So, yeah, it's just like, as long as you do the hard things within reason of what like life is and what you're capable of, like, you're going to feel more satisfied and feel more like proud of yourself and have a better understanding of what your real lines are and like what you can do physically, what you can't do physically, if you want to improve, if you're happy with where you're at, things like that. But being comfortable, it just allows you to be falsely satisfied with the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And that's the worst part of it. Like I don't know, for a society that talks so much about like, I want the highest level of things, like I want the nicest car, the nicest suit, the nicest house, the nicest food. We are so comfortable with doing the least amount of work to get it, and with like the least amount of like a really aggressive and like go-getter attitude, except for the very few people who try to like run their own business, be entrepreneurs, like, and then like just actually succeed at what they're doing and be good at it.
Yeah. I think of it a lot as like living with intention.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
You actually bother to make a decision about what you're going to do.
Yes.
So you actually, and the entire system is set up so that you don't have to have any intention, and you'd be fine, but not really, because you'll fall apart, you know? And I don't think that extends to everything. Like, I know some hunters who eat only wild game.
Yeah.
I think that's fucking awesome.
That's
Maybe
awesome.
one day I'll get there.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it's not my priority. So I try and I do pieces of that and I experience parts of it, but then mostly I'm not able to pull that off.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
I gotta buy meat at the store.
Right. But then when I go to the store, I'm still going to pick the best of that decision. So I'm going to go for the grass-fed beef, and I'm going to try to learn what makes a good diet, and I'm going to try to put those things together and experiment for myself. And it's so easy to see when it comes to diet, I think, because everybody experiments like a little with that.
Yeah.
But there are so many things in life people don't experiment with, where they don't recognize that they could do something better for themselves, and have an intention behind things that they do.
You know, that's the same thing, like realizing with all the stuff the last couple of years with like COVID and everything, like, you know, eventually they came out and just said like, hey, working out is good for you. Like, it can help prevent COVID. Like, that's the hard thing. Like, all right, cool. Like, you should try working out. Like, if you're like, well, I don't know, I just don't know how I feel about it. I'm like, the worst that's going to happen is you're going to get healthier. Like that's the worst that's going to happen probably.
Yeah.
By going to a gym, especially now, like, you know, if people want to be vaccinated or whatever, all that stuff and all the health requirements, like all the cleaning gyms do, like we clean here all the time too, is like the worst that's going to happen by you making this hard decision and going to work out is you're going to either hate it and never go back, or you're going to love it and go back all the time and get way healthier. So like, those are your options. Just go do it at least once.
Yeah, I think
nobody wants to make that decision.
My mindset has shifted on like working out too since starting jiu-jitsu, because like I've done just a little of everything. I used to run when I was a kid. I played some sports. I lifted a bit, and then once I started jiu-jitsu, I was like, oh, this is the workout. Yeah, like this makes me incredibly 100%. Happy, and it's not because it's easy. It's really, really hard, and it's got me in better shape than anything I've ever done. But it's not like. But I actually enjoy doing it. I think people get so stuck into like, okay, am I going to run or bike and be one of those cardio people? Or am I going to go like lift weights and be like a gym bro? It's like, there are so many ways. And I've made fun of like Frisbee golf on this show a bunch of times because I think it's really silly. I still think it's silly. But if that's something you love doing, and what it does is it gets you out multiple days a week, walking around that course.
Those are big courses.
Out in the sun, like getting as much sun as you can. Yeah. You know, like, great. Like, do whatever it is that makes you happy. But I guarantee there's something that's a healthy outlet for everybody, and we're all built different. We all like different things.
You can find that you love to do that's not going to, like, make you cry every time you have to go do it. Now, I know people who do jiu-jitsu, and they're like, yeah, I love jiu-jitsu, it's the workout. But they're like, I want to, like, lose more weight. And I'm like, cool. Like, then you do need to look at your food, and you do need to look at, like, working out and, like, pair those things together. But maybe, like, you don't need to work out 6 days a week. You need to work out like 2 because you do jujitsu the other 5 or 3 or
But
whatever.
they go to and it all goes together, doesn't it?
Yeah, it all
Like
goes together.
when I'm doing more jujitsu, I can't bring myself to eat something shitty.
No,
Like-
because you're gonna feel like crap when you have to go roll the next day.
Yeah, yeah,
It's gonna be
that
terrible.
and you waste like today we had open mat today, so I'm like, what am I gonna do for dinner? And it's late. We're gonna finish this podcast late.
Yeah.
Man, would I love to get some Taco Bell? And I have the excuse. I'm like, I worked all day and I worked so hard,
Yeah.
but I'm like, I just wasted that whole morning. Like I'm gonna build no muscle, nothing off of that tonight.
Plus, you're gonna spend most of the night in the restroom after Taco Bell.
And Taco Bell actually makes me feel awesome. To
Really?
be honest, yeah,
That's-
it's the one that makes me feel awesome.
I love it, but it makes me feel awful.
But my point is like, I want to refuel from that. And again, everything moves in cycles. And so if you're doing the workout, then you'll eat well, which will get you to do the workout, which will get you to eat well again.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. And I just think people forget that they can go find something they like. And I think like fitness gets really like tribal online.
Yeah,
It's like you
can.
have to know everything about lifting to go lift. Like, no, get one kettlebell and you can
Yeah.
do anything you might need to do.
Just like my biggest thing is I'm like, just start easy. Like,
Yeah.
kids want to go in there. They think that like the first day of lifting or going to a gym, they're gonna need to like be able to do 200 pounds because they see so many memes about if you can't do 2 plates on the
Right.
bar, or like girls are like, I have to be able to like hip thrust 500 pounds, and I'm like, you just need to come in. Like, that's the hardest part. The
Right.
hardest part should be coming into the gym, and then everything's easy after that.
Yeah, and with lifting, people come in, they lift really hard, and then they get
Are out-
so sore because they just destroy themselves that they
Yes.
don't come back.
And
it's
they're
probably
out for
true
like 5
jiu-jitsu
days.
too.
They're out for like 5 days, and they're
Yeah,
like, this working out thing's hard. Like, I just don't know how you do it 6 days a week. Well, I don't do what you did
Yeah.
6 days a week.
right. It's true with jiu-jitsu though too. You start in jiu-jitsu. I was like weak, and
Yeah.
so but in more ways than one, and so I got injured way more when I started.
Ah,
You get those little rib injuries and torn muscles
Yeah.
everywhere. You're not doing things right, and those go away. Like you have to keep showing up. I remember like the first year I was just covered in bruises all the
yeah,
time.
I still get little jiu-jitsu hickeys.
Dude, I don't get bruised anymore.
It's hard.
Like-
It takes a while. If anywhere, it's usually during like a certain technique month that we have at the school,
Sure.
and it's my shins. Out of anywhere,
Yeah.
it's always my shins.
Yeah.
And that's also partially from like kicking and being kicked and things like
Right.
that. But like every once in a while, I get a random one. Like I have a random little spot on my rib right now, and it's probably from a kick or a punch or somebody accidentally elbowed me while we were rolling. Something stupid, but
Yeah.
still, either way, like it's part of the gig. Like,
Right.
but it's also part of the gig where like you're building that like toughness to the fact that you're like, I can do a lot more than I thought I could.
Yeah.
And handle physically a lot more than I thought I could.
Right.
Like that's huge. Like once you learn that your body is capable of so many things and they can stack on top of each other, and like it's not just like, okay, like I did this and now well that went away, so I got to start over. Like no, those things just compound and you get better and better each time. So you just have to stick with it.
Yeah. I know my next goal. Andrew, would you get some photos for me? My next goal is to make my neck tougher.
You have to get one of those iron neck things like Joe Rogan.
Yeah, I got to
uses.
mess with that. Mostly because the thing that was happening the other night was we were working some like Marcelo teen
Yeah.
guillotines,
Yeah.
and then like a not a Marcelo teen guillotine. I'm saying Marcelo teen, and then it was what, like a butterfly
Oh yeah.
sweep into
Yeah.
like a mounted guillotine.
Uh-huh.
But that was all fine, and I don't mind the pain, but if someone starts clamping on that with their like wrist or whatever,
Yeah.
I'm literally sitting there. I won't make the sound in case I have podcast listeners who like gag when they hear gagging.
Yeah.
I was gagging. I was just like
Yeah.
gagging,
It's the worst.
and I kept like doing it over and over again
Yeah.
to a point where I was like, I'm about to throw up on my partner. Like I can't do that,
Yeah. No, those
I had to just
Marcelo
step out. I was
things-
like, I'm out.
and then like the guillotines to the top, like it's all windpipe and it's like right on your Adam's apple.
Yeah.
And coach teaches that way for that purpose. It's perfect.
Yeah.
But like after a couple, I'm always like, all right, guys, like I'm not gonna pull the rank, but like purple belt, I'm done for a couple rounds.
done.
Like,
Yeah,
or
bro.
me and another purple belt to do it. We'll do like 3 times each because we've done it for the last like couple years. And we're like,
Uh-huh.
all right, yep, that was solid. Like, feel good about that. I don't know if I can learn how to fuck up your windpipe that much better.
Yeah, and I feel like other guys maybe guillotine a little differently than me too, because the
Yeah.
short arm guys,
Dude,
it's
the short arm
always
guys,
there.
it's always like wrist or buff. And
Yeah.
I'm like, how does your wrist have muscles when you're choking me?
Yeah,
It's
because
terrible.
I feel like I'm always on any guillotine. Like I'm a nice partner because
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going for the carotids on the sides there. But
The
it
short
was-
guys get you right in there.
Oh,
bro.
yeah.
All
Yeah.
pain all day. It's
Yeah.
terrible.
I took like a shoulder check in high school, like accidentally, once there, and I just remember that pain being like easily the same as getting kicked in the balls. It's
Oh,
just
100%.
awful for
It's
a long
terrible.
time.
I got sparring one time a couple months ago, got punched right here. Like I just went up and he went down and it just hit right there.
Ooh.
And I was out for a solid couple minutes. I was like, I just need a minute. It'll just be a second. Like
Yeah.
I could barely talk, and I was like, because you always hear these horror stories of like people's windpipes getting dislodged or something.
Oh, I can't think about that.
And
shit.
I'm just like, is that me today? Like in that moment, I was like, for a second, I freaked out. I was like, I'll be fine. I was like, okay, we're cool. But I was like, I'm just gonna need a minute. It's fine.
And then you're probably having like asthma flashbacks or whatever with all your inhalers when you can't breathe.
The only flashbacks I ever had were, or like worst things about jujitsu, since we're talking about that now, about like starting jujitsu, was I had super bad claustrophobia when I started jujitsu.
Really?
Yeah, like I was super claustrophobic.
Not a great place for that.
Terrible. Like I would freak out if somebody like, in a sense of like it was almost like I was scared of the dark and being locked in a room and like not having control. Like it freaked me out all at the same time. And so like you could like turn off the lights in my room and like lock the door, and I knew you locked the door, and I would like have like a little freak out, like panic attack. So like doing jujitsu, like you have like north-south choke, guillotines, all it where everything just closes in.
Yep.
And so like the first year, I just like, because I would like the first couple, I would say first month, 2 months maybe, like I would go in, I would just tap because I was just like freaked out, right?
Yeah.
So I had to make a choice of like, okay, I'm not gonna tap unless it's like these dudes aren't gonna kill me. I'm gonna be fine. So I literally every night would have to like psych myself up, go in, and when we would roll, I would just like start breathing really heavy when they'd get me into stuff, and then like have to calm my breathing and just like basically let them choke me out, which they were better than me anyway, so I wasn't letting them do anything. But like I had to like work through my claustrophobia by getting choked.
Yeah.
To like, and by like being mounted and not having control, and like my arms being pinned, just all
and
the
it's
things.
so
that
bad
jiu-jitsu.
too because there's so many positions where someone can be right on your diaphragm and you're not breathing.
Oh yeah.
Or over your mouth, covering your mouth and nose, and you're
like
really
the little choke. Yeah.
you really can't breathe at all.
Yeah, it was awful. Like I spent a solid 6 months to a year just like trying to fight through claustrophobia.
Yeah.
And I was like, I told somebody that like a couple months ago, and they're like, that might have been the worst idea you had to beat that. I was like, hey, but it worked. Like we're not there anymore.
That's some immersion therapy.
I was like,
now you got the pride in it.
We just went with it and figured out what happened.
Yeah, man. My favorite is when someone will catch something and I'm trying to breathe, but they've cut it off just enough that you just make a little squeak and you're like,
yeah.
And they like let go and you're like, yeah, okay.
You're like, that counts.
Yeah. And I never know like how long to hang on for. Cause I always feel like I like to hang on to make sure that like I really couldn't get out.
Yeah.
It's really there. I'm not
like you were actually gonna like pass out if
you
could,
if
right?
I kept going, I certainly would pass
That's
out because you gotta like, but you gotta feel it. You gotta know. It's like that fight we watched just before we started. Like that guy knew where passing out was and he knew he wasn't there yet. Yeah. So he didn't tap, you know? He knew he could last 10 seconds before that bell went, you know? So man, we talked about a lot of awesome things today.
A lot of things.
So thanks for coming on the show, man.
Went all over the place. Thanks for having me.
I mean,
awesome.
that's the whole idea. We go wherever we want to go. Yeah. It's our show.
Yeah.
Tell people where they can find you on the internet and whatnot.
So I have my personal social media, which is just James 10PKC. Yeah, I'm one of those guys who like my life is just about jiu-jitsu and 10th Planet, so it's after my name.
Don't worry, I've made fun of people for that.
I know.
On this podcast.
I've watched your podcast.
You're allowed
and listened to it, and then I also like laughed when you said it.
You're fully allowed to do that, though.
So yeah,
if you're going to be a pro fighter, you can do it, folks.
Yeah, James Regina, or James 10PKC. It'll bring up the same guy. It'll be a photo of me, probably like with the 10th Planet banner in the background, because that's what all of us do. And then there'll be a lot of pictures of me going like this after fights and winning and stuff.
Yes.
And then I believe my fight will be on Flow Combat on May 21st. I think that it's for Shamrock Fighting Championship here in Kansas City. So you can also search them, and they'll tell you sometimes they played on their Facebook and YouTube. But
this will come out before your fight. Is there any sort of like code people can put in?
If you're coming to the fight, you can select me like online for tickets. But I don't believe on this live stream. I think it's just through Flow Combat. So you just have to buy the subscription for that, or pay the pay-per-view, whatever it is. But you can also leave my Instagram. I'll have updates on there. And then if you want to follow my personal training website stuff, it's just Stay Ready Performance on Instagram. And yeah, that's about it. Otherwise, I'm just this guy trying to make a living punch people in the face.
Nice, bro. Love it. All right. Thanks, folks, for listening. We got lots more coming at you. We're about to leave Kansas City, so the next stuff you'll have from me will be in the great state of Indiana in Eastern time for some reason. Always my big beef with Indiana, to be honest. But that's it for now. So thanks for listening. And as always, we will see you on the next episode.